Am I the a-hole for letting my daughter celebrate me for Mother's Day? I'm male 45. I'm a single dad to my daughter, 15 female. When my daughter was only a month old, her mother decided she didn't want to be a mom anymore and left. So it's just been my daughter and I ever since. My daughter grew up with friends/other girls whose mom did everything girly or motherly with them. But for my daughter, I was the one who was helping her get ready for dance competitions, taking her to concerts like Taylor Swift and Harry Styles, going shopping for clothes, and so much more. So with mostly her friends, she gave me the title Dad Mom jokingly because I act in both roles in my daughter's life. Of course, yesterday was Mother's Day. My daughter made a post with 2 pictures, a picture of her with my mom and sister, as well as a picture of just her and me. She just thanked her grandma and aunt for being motherly influences for her. And then she did a special shout out to me for being her dad mom and doing everything for her in both dad and mom roles. Well, we later went to dinner with my parents and my sister and her family. My sister asked my daughter why she mentioned me in her Mother's Day post. My daughter said, "Well, Dad's a single parent who acts as both a dad and a mom. I only have 1 parent, not 2. My sister said, "Well, that's what Father's Day is for." She then turned to me and called me an a-hole because Mother's Day is 1 day out of the year, so I shouldn't encourage my daughter to celebrate her dad on Mother's Day. My mom didn't feel like anything is wrong with it, but I feel like an a-hole. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's funny that when women post themselves on Father's Day because they're mom and dad, no one bats an eye. Shout out to you for being everything your daughter needs. It's hard enough being a girl. For you to try and understand or feed her interests says a lot about the stand-up man you are. Yep, that's what I was going to say. My siblings and I have spent the last 5 years celebrating my mom as a father on Father's Day, and nobody ever thinks it's taking away from fathers. If you were both parents, then you should be celebrated as both. I bet that makes her feel really special and loved, and she deserves to feel that way for all the hard work she does. I think it's awesome for kids to celebrate their single parents like this. Not a-hole. This isn't a good look for your sister. It comes across as her being jealous that you were mentioned, her feeling like she isn't enough of a motherly influence since your daughter mentioned you too. In the grand scheme of things, she's a hypocrite, and lucky she got to mention herself since she's not technically your daughter's mother either. I know my daughter sees her grandma and aunt as motherly influence in her life. She can go to them if she needs any advice that she doesn't feel comfortable sharing with me. And that's great. Nothing wrong with it at all. But the fact that your sister is saying you shouldn't be mentioned when celebrating Mother's Day when you're not her mother is hypocritical because your sister isn't her mother either. Your daughter isn't an a-hole. You're not an a-hole, but your sister sure is. Not the a-hole. Your daughter can celebrate her dad mom. Love it. On any damn day she wants. And it's no one's business but yours. You sound like an awesome parent. Good job. I find it ironic that according to your sister, it's okay for her to be included as an aunt, but not you as a dad. Talk about rules for thee, not for me. Thank you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brain-damaged uncle that I don't care what other people put up with and that in my house it can be polite or leave? My uncle 53 is a complete a-hole. He is vulgar and rude, and he positively delights in being as offensive as possible. My grandmother says it's from a brain injury when he was young. I have never seen proof of this, but my dad 50 male has put up with us his whole life. When I ask him about it, he just says that is the way his brother is and always has been. My mom basically banned him from our house when I was growing up, so I only saw him at family events. At weddings where he would say the groom looked gay or that the bride looked pregnant. Thanksgiving where he would tell offensive jokes at a table, or a birthday party where he said the food tasted like crap. Now, I, male 27, recently bought a house with my girlfriend 23. It is small and needs work, but we can afford it with a lot of help from our families and the bank. We had a housewarming this weekend and had a barbecue. It was the first time we could host a big group, as I only had a bachelor apartment and my girlfriend lived with her dad. My dad invited my uncle. I did not. My uncle shows up and starts being himself. He starts calling my home a crap hole and asks my girlfriend why she's with a loser like me. I ask him to come out in the front yard to talk for a second, and I read him the riot act. That I do not care that other people have coddled him his whole life, and if he cannot be civil, then he is welcome to GTFO. I was not quiet, so I'm pretty sure everyone in my backyard could hear me telling him to behave like a freaking civilized adult. He left, but spent the rest of the day texting everyone there, including his mom, my grandmother, and saying that is not his fault, that I overreacted to his behavior. It put a damper on the party. His family are kind of on his side, but my mom's family and my friends are backing me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It's your home, and he disrespected you in it. Also, your dad was out of line for inviting your uncle without consulting you first. If you can't respect your host, then you should leave. Plain and simple. Yeah, especially when his own wife banned a brother from their home. And the presumption of Opie's father to invite a nasty uncle to a house, that's not his. I've seen so many stories of people enabling bullies, but attack people when they stick up for themselves. Not the a-hole, Opie. You need to tell your dad that he won't be welcome in your house if he brings the a-hole uncle. In fact, that goes for all your family. That nasty uncle is never to set foot in your place. Who cares if your family complains? Let them deal with the a-hole uncle, and you could live free of his vitriol. I bet Dad thought that by inviting the uncle to Opie's house, he could circumvent his wife and host and spend more time with his brother again by having all the family events at Opie's house. Like, sorry wife, I can't control who Opie allows to come. If you want to see your son, you'll put up with uncle. Not the a-hole. I don't know if your uncle is the a-hole, but your dad is definitely the a-hole for inviting him without telling you. Also, your dad's family for expecting you to put up with him in your home. He's their responsibility, not yours. You really don't know if uncle is an a-hole? At least the narrative of the family is that he doesn't know better, but the father does. The uncle is an a-hole, but for the purposes of this sub, may not be one. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that she's not allowed to meet our kids anymore? My husband and I have 2 5 female and 8 male children. After a very traumatic birth with my elder one, I decided that I'm not ready to go through that again. But we still wanted more children, so 5 years ago we adopted. My mother-in-law cares for our family, but she makes her preference for Malcolm more than clear. To begin with, she was absolutely furious hearing that I would not be having another biological child and was instantly disapproving. After hearing we were going to adopt a child, her anger turned into rage. She screamed about how we didn't know the parentage of the child and might end up bringing in someone who would disgrace her lineage. My husband was able to calm her down, and thankfully when we saw little Julia, it seemed like this was all behind us. Then yesterday, my mother-in-law decided to visit us. My husband was away on a trip, so she was just helping around. I was absolutely exhausted, so I asked if I could go down for a nap, and she was more than agreeing. After a few hours, she woke me up and informed me that she was about to leave. All was good. I was cooking in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I hear a loud bang, preceded with a crying Julia. When I rush into the hall, I see Malcolm towering over her. "You're not real. All of this is mine," he started screaming, which was incredibly confusing to say the least. After calming them down, I asked Malcolm what he meant. He then revealed that Grandma Muriel had told him that he was Mommy and Daddy's real son. This made me incredibly mad. I asked him what else Grandma has told him, and he told me all about how she had been telling him that Julia wasn't really his sister, and how he should get extra attention for being extra special, how he's always going to be Grandma's favorite grandson, and so much more. Blinded with rage, I blocked Muriel and everything after sending her a text detailing her actions, and how this was absolutely unacceptable, and how she'd never be seeing her grandkids until they're much older and understand the situation, so they wouldn't be swayed by her words. I probably overreacted, to be fair, as she is quite an old lady. After my husband returned, we got into quite the argument. To say the least, my husband disagreed. He adores his mother and told me that stopping her from seeing the kids is inhumane, that she's simply old-fashioned, and she didn't know her words would bring this big of an impact or some such. We will be having a civil discussion about this later. Edit? I'm sorry I didn't clarify this earlier, but both Julia and Malcolm know that she is adopted. I've had a conversation with both the children, although I have had it separately with the both of them. I think I might have to have this conversation once again and make sure Julia knows that it doesn't matter whether she's adopted or not. Now for the comments. I need you to understand this. Your husband is saying he will let his mother mistreat your daughter. You have a serious problem in your family, and you need to get into counseling to fix it immediately before he ruins this young girl's life. And you need to prepare for the fact that your husband may never really love or protect his adopted daughter, and you will have to be the one who protect her from both of them, not the a-hole. Exactly. I said in my own comment that he has no business being a parent if he can't keep his mother away from his daughter. I also suggested therapy. Parents through adoption have to be ready to protect their kids, first and foremost. My God, I was horrified when I read that the husband disagreed with her decision because he adores his mom. Hope he should have their son tell his dad exactly what Grandmommy Dearest said, and then ask, "So you're okay with your mom saying these things about your daughter? Is that what you were telling me? That our daughter deserves to be told she isn't as worthy of our love because she's not our biological child? Are you telling me that you love your mom more than Julia? Because that's the only takeaway from you wanting your mother around after the horrible things she said. And if he still wants mom around, divorce him. The end. Your child's welfare is more important than saving a marriage with a man who will allow his mom to mistreat his child. You can either support me in my decision to hold your mother accountable for her actions, or I will file for divorce. This is a hard deal breaker for me. What your mother did was unforgivable in my eyes, and I will not allow our children to be raised to think they aren't really brother and sister because your ignorant mother thinks our adopted child is less than our biological child. So you need to pack a bag and go stay somewhere else because I can't even look at you right now. I am beyond disappointed that you don't see anything wrong with what your mother said and did, or the fact that your son attacked your daughter because of it. Pull your head out of your butt, or I will do what I have to do to protect our children, even if that means ending this marriage, not the a-hole. I think this might just be where this goes. If my husband doesn't agree to cut her off of our kids, I'm done. Their mental health, happiness, and relationship with each other is more important than a husband who won't see that he's actively hurting by neglecting his own daughter. More so, also ruining her perception in front of his son. Thank you so much for the comment. Last story. Would I be the a-hole asking our friend to return a baby shower gift after a miscarriage? I know this sounds awful and I feel like it might be a terrible thing to do, so I need some advice. My husband has a long-term family friend named Jen. Jen and I aren't friends at all, but we are friendly when we see each other. When Jen had her first kid, my husband purchased a fairly expensive item off of her baby shower registry as a gift. Around $200 to $300 if I recall correctly. I had no issue with the gift or how much he spent. It was a nice item to gift her, and we were excited for her to grow her family with her then boyfriend, now husband. Fast forward a few years, Jen and her husband are high earners, both making over 6 figures. Jen announced she was pregnant again very early along and sent my husband her baby shower registry with her announcement text, which was full of high-priced items. Personally, I thought this was strange because she should still have most of the items from her first kid and didn't think people usually did full-blown baby showers or registries after their first. I was also surprised she was asking for gifts when she was still in the first trimester, but I'm a cautious person who didn't announce my pregnancy until 20 weeks, which I know is extreme on the other side. I left it up to my husband what he wanted to do, but mentioned to him that I was surprised she was organizing another shower or gifting event, since she already has a young kid and got brand new stuff then. My husband spent around $400 on a gift for her, which is fine with me, but a few weeks later, Jen had a traumatic miscarriage. I won't get into the details, but she was devastated, and the cost of the loss likely means she won't be able to carry future pregnancies to term. It's incredibly sad, and while I'm not close with Jen, my heart hurt for her. It's been a few months since her loss, and my husband is now unsure of how to navigate the gift. It's not something she can use for her older kid, but asking her to return the gift seems cruel, like adding a chore onto her grief, and it's probably past the return window anyway. I'm also not sure if she's going to keep trying to have more kids, which is now very risky for the baby and herself, and it seems incredibly sensitive to ask. Plus, she may not have decided yet. Asking her to pay us back for it also seems very cruel. My husband and I are also decently high earners, but $400 is still a lot of money. It's one thing if she's able to get a few years of use out of the item, so that's money well spent. But if it's going to sit in a box in her attic for years, that's where we are getting stuck. So would we be the a-hole if we ask about getting the gift back? Ideally, we could get our money back somehow, although it's probably too late. If we can't, then I'd at least like to gift it to someone else who can use it. I feel awful just saying that, but it's how I feel. However, this is such a sensitive subject and we don't want to pressure her if she's not ready to discuss it. You're the a-hole. It was a gift. It shouldn't come with terms and conditions. You gave it away. It's gone. Exactly. It doesn't matter what Jen does with any present after she receives it. It was a gift to her and is hers now. Hope let it go. Jen could very well decide to gift or donate it herself. Better to just treat it like a regular gift and not think about it as a waste. You're the a-hole. You chose to spend much money. You absolutely didn't have to. There's no tactful way to ask for it back. It will look petty and greedy, so they'll either try to return everything if they want to or donate it. But once the gift's given, you should let it go. Update. I appreciate the feedback I've gotten. We will not be asking Jen about the gift. We don't want to make her feel worse than she already is. Given her statements in the past regarding adoption, I doubt she will find alternative ways to have another child if she isn't able to do so biologically. But that's her path to walk. If she doesn't use it, I hope she at least donates the item to someone who needs it. People have also commented on my tone, and I just wanted to clarify that Jen is truly only my husband's friend, not mine. We aren't couples friends with her and her husband. Jen and my husband were close as kids, but haven't been close for years, before I ever came into the picture. Sort of like a cousin he grew up with, but only talk to at major holidays now. I don't hate Jen, but we have very different worldviews, so we likely won't ever be close. I'm sympathetic to Jen's loss as a person, and as a person who has also experienced miscarriages. But I am not personally devastated by it, if that makes sense. If my husband wrote the post, the tone would have been different. Given how long they've known each other and how she's so integrated into their family, he felt it was appropriate to gift her a big-ticket item, which I thought was justified. I do wish he had waited to send it, because I warned him that it was very early in her pregnancy, and anything could happen.